You are standing on the roadside in handcuffs, and you know you are sober. What you say next can quietly help build the case against you. Before I go further, has a traffic stop ever made you so nervous that you started talking too much? Put yes or no in the comments right now, because that one habit gets a lot of good drivers in trouble. Here is the scary part. You do not have to be drunk to get arrested for DUI. You just have to look wrong to the officer in the wrong moment. Your eyes can be red from work, allergies, or no sleep. Your speech can sound off because you're scared. Your balance can look shaky because you are standing on gravel in the dark. Maybe you had a long shift. Maybe you were crying. Maybe you're diabetic. Maybe you have anxiety, vertigo, or an old leg injury. Most drivers have no idea this is even a thing. The officer is trained to look for clues. Those clues are not always proof. But in the moment, those clues can be enough for handcuffs. Here is what most people do wrong. They think truth alone will save them, so they start talking fast. They explain too much, joke too much, and answer questions nobody forced them to answer. This is exactly where things fall apart. A sober driver starts trying to sound innocent, but nervous people do not always sound innocent. Sometimes they sound panicked, confused, and guilty. Then the stop turns into a story, and the officer starts writing that story down. Your words become part of the report before any real test even happens. A lot of sober people also think cooperation means saying yes to everything. That is not true. You can be calm, polite, and respectful without handing over extra words. You can follow lawful orders without helping build the case. The difference matters more than most people realize. In a DUI stop, it can change everything. And there is one more problem. Most drivers treat the stop like a conversation. It is not a normal conversation. It is an evidence-gathering moment. That means little comments can hurt you. Saying you are tired can become fatigue. Saying you're stressed can become confusion. Saying you had one drink yesterday can become alcohol admission. That is why sober people still get arrested. Not always because they failed something real. Sometimes because they gave the officer a pile of clues that sounded close enough. I have gone through a lot of real traffic stop footage, read real court records, and studied how these stops unfold. The pattern is almost always the same. Drivers do not lose in the last minute. They lose in the first minute. The biggest damage often comes from words, not from the stop itself. Here is the first move, and it is the one almost nobody uses when panic kicks in. I call it the quiet mouth move. This one protects you from your own fear. When you know you're sober, your first instinct is to explain everything. You want to prove you are fine. You want to sound normal. That urge is exactly what gets many people in trouble. A scared person talks fast. A tired person talks sloppy. A confused person fills silence with extra details. None of that proves guilt, but it can sound bad in a police report. This is why the quiet mouth move matters. You are not being rude. You are stopping the damage before it starts. Say exactly this. Officer, I want to cooperate, but I'm choosing to remain silent. That line is clean and calm. It does not attack the officer. It does not sound dramatic. It just draws a clear line around your words. Now listen carefully. Being silent does not mean refusing basic duties. If the officer asks for your license, registration, or insurance, hand them over. If the officer orders you out of the car, step out calmly. What you are refusing is the extra talking. You are not giving guesses, stories, excuses, or little side comments. Those extra words are where sober people often hurt themselves. This phrase works because it is clear. Silence works best when you say you are choosing it. Otherwise, the officer may say you were ignoring commands or acting strange. A calm silence looks very different from a panicked silence. One looks controlled. The other can be twisted into suspicion. And here is something else. The more you talk, the more chances you give for small mistakes. You might mix up times. You might answer too fast. You might say something harmless that sounds terrible on paper. Your goal is not to win the argument on the roadside. Your goal is to stop feeding the file. Your silence is not weakness. Your silence is cover. Now this next one is where most people completely fall apart. I call it the requirement question. This one stops you from saying yes just because you feel pressure. A lot of drivers do not know the difference between a request and an order. If an officer sounds confident, most people assume they have no choice. That is a huge mistake. During a DUI stop, the officer may ask you to do roadside tests. That might mean following a pen with your eyes. It might mean walking heel to toe. It might mean standing on one leg. You may also be asked to blow into a small handheld device on the roadside. Many drivers think every test is automatic and mandatory. That is not always true. Rules can change by state. Roadside tests and later chemical tests are not always treated the same way. That is why you need clarity before you say yes. Say exactly this. Am I legally required to do this roadside test? That question is powerful because it forces the moment to become clear. The officer now has to treat it like a real legal choice. You are no longer guessing. And that matters because guessing is what hurts sober drivers. They do a shaky balance test on bad pavement. They do an eye test while flashing lights hit their face. They do a breath device test without even knowing what kind it is. This question slows things down. It tells the officer you are paying attention. It also helps you separate what is truly required from what is simply being requested. If the officer says something is required, do not argue on the roadside. Stay calm. Make a mental note. The roadside is not the place to fight about law. If the officer makes clear that something is voluntary, then you know you are making a choice, not obeying an order. That alone can stop a lot of bad decisions. Most bad roadside choices happen because people feel rushed. This question takes the rush away. Clarity is power. Never give away power just because a flashlight is in your face. Real quick, if nobody has ever told you any of this before, will you hit the like button right now? Most people drive for years without learning even one of these moves, and I want more good drivers to know them. Now, before I keep going, I want to be clear about something. Everything I'm sharing today is for education only. This is not legal advice, and I am not your lawyer. If you are dealing with a serious case, talk to a licensed attorney in your state. Okay, back to it. Here's the next move, and this one matters more than people think. I call it the medical flag. This move is for the sober driver who looks impaired for a reason that has nothing to do with alcohol. A lot of real medical problems can look like DUI. Diabetes can affect speech and awareness. Vertigo can affect balance. Anxiety can affect breathing, speech, and how your eyes look. Even an old knee injury can wreck a balance test. Fatigue can make your eyes heavy. A concussion, migraine, or nerve problem can make you seem off. Now, let me be very clear. This move is only for the truth. Never make up a condition. Never fake a health issue. False stories can crush your credibility fast. But if you do have a real condition, you need to say it early and simply. Do not wait until after a bad roadside performance. By then, the officer may think you are making excuses. Say exactly this: I need to let you know I have a real medical issue that can affect how I look or move. That line does two important things. First, it puts an innocent reason on the table before the officer fills in the blanks. Second, it explains why you may look unsteady, confused, or strange without admitting any crime. Notice what the line does not do. It does not ramble. It does not tell your life story. It does not invite a long debate on the roadside. That matters because short truth is stronger than long panic. When people get scared, they start over-explaining. Over-explaining often sounds fake, even when it is not. If your medical issue is urgent, say that too and ask for help. A real medical emergency should be treated like one. You do not need to act tough in a dangerous moment. This phrase also helps later. If body cam footage shows you gave a simple warning early, that can matter. It shows you were not suddenly inventing an excuse after the fact. The goal here is not drama. The goal is context. Truth, stated early, can change the whole stop. Now, this next move is small, but it changes the temperature of the whole encounter. I call it the line in the road. This is the moment where you stop the stop from becoming endless. A lot of DUI stops stretch out because the driver keeps chatting. The officer asks one more question, then one more, then a few more after that. The driver thinks staying friendly will end it faster. Usually it does not. It often gives the officer more time to watch, listen, and build suspicion. Time itself becomes part of the pressure. That is why you need a clean status check. You need to know whether you are being held or whether you can leave. In simple words, detained means the officer is keeping you there and you are not free to go. Say exactly this: am I being detained or am I free to leave? This question works because it forces the stop into a clear lane. If the officer says you are free to leave, then the stop should be over. If the officer says you're detained, then you know the stop is still active. And once you know that, your next move is simple. If you are free to leave, leave calmly when told. Do not celebrate. Do not argue. Just go. If you are detained, stop trying to charm your way out. Do not fill the silence. Do not keep explaining how sober you are. At that point, more talking usually means more evidence. This question also helps you stay mentally steady. Fear gets worse when you do not know where you stand. A clear answer gives your brain something solid. It also sounds respectful. You are not yelling. You're not making threats. You're asking for the status of the stop in plain language. And that matters because confused drivers often talk themselves into deeper trouble. Clear drivers make fewer mistakes. One warning here. Do not ask this while reaching around or acting irritated. Stay still. Keep your hands where they belong. Let your words be the only thing moving. A clear question creates a clear record, and clear records protect people. You deserve to know the line. You do not have to stand there guessing. I need to ask you something. Is there someone in your life who drives every day and has never learned this stuff? Send them this video right now. Not later. Right now. A single sentence from this video could save them from a terrible roadside mistake. Here's the last move, and this one becomes critical once the stop turns into an arrest or questioning at the station. I call it the lawyer lock. This is where sober people often think they can finally explain everything and fix it. That is usually the worst time to start talking. You are tired. You are upset. You are shocked that this is even happening. You're not thinking at your best. A lot of people believe the station is where the officer finally listens. But by then, your words are often just more evidence. The room is calmer, but the risk is higher. This is especially dangerous because panic starts sounding like guilt. You repeat yourself. You guess at details. You try too hard to sound believable. That can make things worse fast. So when the stop becomes an arrest or questioning keeps going, you need one clean line. Not a speech, not a debate, one line. Say exactly this. I want a lawyer and I am not answering questions. This phrase works because it is direct. It does not sound unsure. It does not ask for permission. It clearly says what you want and what you will not do. That matters because vague words can fail. Saying maybe I need a lawyer is weak. Saying should I get a lawyer is weak. You want simple and unmistakable. And once you say it, stop talking. That part is huge. Do not say the lawyer line and then keep chatting. A lot of people do exactly that. They ask for a lawyer, then start telling the whole story anyway. They try to clear things up. They think one more explanation will help. It usually does not. Silence after the lawyer line is what gives the line real strength. If you keep talking, you hand the power right back. Also remember this, an arrest is not proof, it is an accusation. The roadside is not your trial, and the station is not your chance to talk your way into fairness. Your real job in that moment is protection. Protect your words. Protect your calm. Protect your future from the worst version of your panic. When the lawyer line is clear, the game changes. You just went through training that most drivers never get. You now know something that most drivers will never know. First, when fear hits, stop feeding the report and use silence with control. Second, never guess whether a roadside test is required when you can ask clearly. Third, if a real medical issue affects how you look or move, say it early and keep it simple. Fourth, do not stand there confused when you can ask whether you are detained or free to leave. Fifth, once the stop turns into an arrest or station questioning, lock it down with a lawyer request and stop talking. These are not magic words, but they are smart moves. They give you structure when panic wants chaos. You are not helpless in that situation anymore. You are calmer, sharper, and much harder to push around. Here is your challenge. Pick the one line from this video you are most likely to forget under stress, and practice it out loud tonight. Then come back and tell me which line you chose. I read those comments, and your answer might help another driver remember what to say when the lights come on. Stay calm, speak smart. Never let a sober night get turned into somebody else's DUI story.